If you've ever wondered if it's possible for you to remove trauma from your life but keep the lessons, then this is for you. Hi, I'm Jen Sway. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I'm here to help you remove the fears, doubts, and resistance that's getting in the way of your peace and sabotaging your success. So, if you've ever been asked the question of if you could, would you rather have just not gone through all the trauma that you've been through? And chances are you've probably said something along the lines of, yeah, but then I wouldn't be who I am. Or other people are very adamant on, no, you need to go through trauma, you need to go through hard things because that's how you actually end up overcoming things. That's how you find the resilience that you have, and that's how you become the person that you are. And honestly, in my opinion, both are valid. Now, while we can have the emotional maturity to understand that we are who we are because of our past experiences, that we can grow through trauma, and if you're Asian like me, you might even credit your success, your hard work, your resiliency, a lot of the values that you have that got you to where you are now, to the upbringing that you that had probably a lot of criticism, emotional abuse, maybe even physical abuse, that made you a perfectionist, that made you doubt yourself, that made you work harder than everyone else. Now, what if I told you you could remove the emotional impact of that trauma without losing the lesson? What if I told you that you could have the past memories that you do, changing nothing about the facts of what's happened to you, but also remember the good? What if I told you, instead of having this chip on your shoulder that makes you feel like you have to work really hard to prove your worth, that you didn't need to hold on to that little part of you that still wants the validation from your parents, and the part of you that drives yourself to work harder because it'd be shameful not to, and the part of you that doubts yourself of whether or not you're good enough, if you're making the right decision, because you just think that you can always do better? What if instead of all those things, it gets replaced by a peaceful inner voice that's genuinely there to help guide you, that can honestly reflect without criticizing you, and also can cheer you on? What if instead of having this little drive inside of you that still wants to prove your parents right, even though you don't live with them, even though you might not even be following the same path, but still wants the validation from them? What if instead of having that desire, you actually are driven by yourself, by the desire to express yourself fully, to be authentic, to see all the things that you can accomplish in this world because you just want to? What if instead of pushing yourself to work harder because you would feel ashamed not to, because you would be criticizing yourself for not working harder, instead of that little voice, you were driven by a voice of responsibility or even a voice of self love? Because the reason why you're working so hard is actually because you genuinely want to, because it lights up your creative fire, because it is part of you being you in this world. And what if instead of all the comparison that you do, whether it's to your friends or to your neighbors or to everyone that you see on social media, instead of comparing your life to theirs and what it looks like, trying to get it to look a certain way, you actually tap into how it feels instead. And it doesn't bother you at all what anyone else is doing. In fact, you can see someone's success and celebrate them. You can see someone's failure and empathize with them. And still, you believe that you are on the right path for you. There's no timeline. There's no way that it's supposed to look. There's no right way that you're supposed to feel, but you feel at peace and genuinely content with yourself and where your life is at. If that was all possible, would you do it? This is exactly what's possible through hypnotherapy. I know because I did it myself, and trust me, I was skeptical too. After all, I had struggled for over a decade with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, PTSD, as well as perfectionism, disordered eating habits. I had a whole host of issues that made me really believe that I was pretty fucked up. And I think on top of that, what made that worse is that I was really, really smart. And not to toot my own horn, but being highly intelligent also has its downsides. It's a double-edged sword. It's a really common pattern that I see in people who are high achievers, who have gone to college and university, and who are spending a lot of time actually developing themselves, whether it's through reading books or listening to podcasts and even consuming all of the self-development content that's online. I see this pattern of really, really over intellectualizing everything and not actually being able to feel what is going on in their body. And maybe you feel this for yourself too. I've worked with so many people who have been in therapy for months, years, even decades, who come to me being able to clearly articulate everything that's going on within them. They're able to label that they have anxious attachment style. They're able to bring up past memories from their childhood and be like, oh, yeah, well, I'm insecure because my mom would always make fun of me for this. Or, yeah, I feel this way because I was abused like this as a child. Or, yeah, I have no ability to trust myself because I was always punished for, doing something that I wanted to do, and et cetera, right? They're able to root back a lot of their current problems to their past, or they're able to articulate their challenges so well, and yet they still have them. So obviously there's a disconnect between all the information that you have and the integration of that information. And hypnotherapy is, I think, one of the most effective ways to actually integrate everything that you know while removing everything that you don't want. A core tenet of what makes hypnotherapy work so well is that we make the familiar unfamiliar and the unfamiliar familiar, which means the familiar feeling of pushing yourself over the edge, of saying yes even when you don't want to, of people pleasing and fawning and staying in that stress response is so familiar to you. We're going to make that unfamiliar. Now, when you make a pattern that's familiar, unfamiliar, you create space for what it is that you do want to become the norm. And through hypnotherapy, because we're working directly with the subconscious, you're bypassing that conscious filter, which I kind of see as a mesh of like validation, kind of as a filter of BS, right? But your BS radar is off. If there is a disconnect between how your life feels currently and how you want your life to feel, there is probably something off with your BS radar, aka your conscious mind. Because what we would imagine as what's possible for us, we believe is not possible. For example, the belief that money is inherently stressful, that money doesn't grow on trees, that you have to work really hard to make money. These are things that are drilled into us by maybe parents, by society, that makes it so that this is just a natural fact of life. This is just how things work. But then you see people who break that mold. For example, you look at content creators who are making six figures for like one Instagram post, and you're like, wait, that seems really easy. Actually, they made a lot of money in a very short amount of time. And how is that possible, right? But it's not possible for you because they're talented in a specific way. They have access to these resources, etc., etc. So we keep looking at our own current world through our filter, through our paradigm, and then anything that doesn't fit that paradigm we see as BS. And so this is really harmful when it comes to actually wanting to create change, whether it's wanting to open yourself up to more love and having a healthy relationship when you're so used to toxic relationships that are all about the chase, that jealousy is like a very common experience in relationships, that it's normal for you to feel insecure and for there to be a lot of effort in order to have someone actually get to know you, want to get to know you, for you to get to know them, for you to build something. If relationships feel like really heavy and really clunky, it's like, well, why is that? What are the beliefs that are making it such? Do you actually believe that it could be easier? Would you want it to be easier? Same thing with health. I've helped so many people when it comes to their health, their bodies, intuitive eating, people who struggle with disordered eating habits, people who struggle with emotional eating, who just want a snack, who believe that they just are the type of person who is, they have no self-control. And that's their narrative. And all these things are just so tasty, so addictive, and, that's just how it is. Well, what if what was actually possible is that you just genuinely wouldn't even want those things, that those things you don't even have a craving for anymore, you don't have a taste for. It's like why I don't have a problem with alcohol. I've never liked it. I've never liked the taste of it. I've never liked how it feels. So it takes up zero brain space. What if snacks, sweet treats, and the foods that feel so addictive to you are like that? They're just not even in your mind. They don't even take up any brain space. This all happens when we make what is familiar to us, the patterns, the behaviors, the thoughts, and the actions behind things, we make it so unfamiliar to us that what is familiar now is what we have always wanted, is the beliefs that we want to have that actually is helpful for us, are the actions and the behaviors that are actually helpful for us. And as we drill that into our subconscious, knowing that it is safe to let go of whatever it is that was familiar, and that the unfamiliar is actually something that is safe and that what we want, then we can actually integrate it. It just takes a lot of conscious effort to do this. So if you were to try to approach this just from a pure mindset standpoint or even an emotional standpoint, right? You're trying to logic and reason your way out of it. Chances are you've already tried that and it hasn't worked, right? Or you're seeing baby steps in your progress when you could be seeing miles and miles and miles of progress. That is the magic of hypnotherapy, but it's not magic, it's science. Because another core tenet of how the mind works is that your brain works through repetition. Your brain does what you tell it to do, and it's going to find evidence for what you think is true. It is working for you always. Even when you feel like it's working against you, it's because there are beliefs, there are desires that are working against you. not because your brain is messed up in some way. If you have a hard time trusting people, for example, your brain is operating from a paradigm that believes that other people are going to hurt you. It wants to protect you. So it's always going to look at other people's behaviors and see suspicious behavior, even when there is none. You're going to see someone's facial reaction and be like, oh, that means they don't like you, right? Your brain is always going to be looking for these signals. But if you train yourself and rewire your subconscious to actually believe that people are inherently trustworthy, that it is safe for you to have these relationships with people, it is safe for you to be seen, then that is going to be what your brain goes to work to find evidence for. You might smile at somebody and wave to them on the street, a stranger, right? Just on your walk. And when they smile back at you, when they wave back at you, that is creating a body of evidence for how it is safe for you to be seen. It is creating evidence for how people are not going to hurt you, but they're actually safe people. This was a huge thing that I know for myself I had to rewire, especially around men, because after I was sexually assaulted when I was 14, that completely changed the game for me mentally, emotionally, subconsciously, without me even knowing it. I shut down so much. I had really negative beliefs about men, and I felt very, very unsafe and very uncomfortable around all of them. But as I've grown, as I've healed, as I've made what is unfamiliar familiar and what is familiar unfamiliar, that has allowed me to really see that there are so many good men out there. And now I'm surrounded by so many very loving, very gentle, sweet souls, and also men who are very strong in their masculine, but are not predatory, right? They're actually people who are connected with themselves emotionally and are self aware. Now, the last thing I want to know of why hypnotherapy is so effective, especially in rewiring trauma, is because it helps you reduce and release the emotional load of trauma without tampering with your memory. Some people I know think hypnotherapy is some mind control that is going to make you remember things that are fake or like going to shift the way that you remember things. That's not how it works at all. Hypnotherapy is a therapeutic use of hypnosis, and hypnosis is a natural state of being. It is a deeply peaceful state where your nervous system is asleep. And when your nervous system is asleep, you're able to bypass that fight or flight, that conscious filter, that BS that's going to be like, oh, no, we can't believe that we are good enough, because if we do that, then, we're going to be lazy and we're not going to be able to accomplish anything in our life, right? That's not a safe thought to have. We bypass that BS filter and we actually get to integrate what is true. One of the core tenets of the therapeutic use of hypnosis is understanding that a feeling that is buried alive never dies. Meaning, when you were on stage as a 6-year-old at the school talent show and somebody made fun of you and laughed at you when you fell down, and you internalized that pain, you internalized that shame, there is no witness around to be like, hey, don't laugh, that's okay. There is no advocate for you that's like, hey, you did your best, that's okay, laugh it off, right? Because none of that intervention happened and all you felt was pain, all you felt was shame, that gets internalized. And even now, as an adult, that pain is following you. It seems like, why would that bother you? Obviously, logically, you're a child, things happen, you fall. But that's just not how the subconscious works. The subconscious is always recording, and it's always going to remember how your nervous system felt, the stories that were created, and the feelings that were buried alive. What hypnotherapy allows you to do is go back to those scenes, the root cause of whatever it is that you're struggling with. For example, I had a client who that was the scene that happened with, and she had severe test anxiety. And with that test anxiety came from this feeling of you're being seen, you're being tested, you're going to be judged here, and therefore it's going to make you feel locked up and anxious, right? Same thing with people who have a fear of public speaking. Chances are you have something in your past where maybe you had like the teacher call on you for popcorn and you have to go and read a paragraph out loud and you fumbled your words, or you weren't ready and the class laughed at you, or you just felt embarrassed because you couldn't get the words out. Those things follow you. So when you go back to those scenes, you clear it up and you actually make an understanding with your subconscious mind that's like that protector in you. You're like, hey, it's safe to let this go now. We actually are capable and are totally okay with being seen now. We can deal with if people laugh at us, we can deal with failure, and we know that we are lovable, that we're enough, that we're okay no matter what. And when you make peace with that protector part of you, when you make peace with your subconscious, when it understands that it is safe to let go of those things, that is where you find liberation. All right, now that the sun is setting behind the trees and we are in the shade, I feel like that wraps up everything that we wanted to talk about in this video. So I hope it helped you understand hypnotherapy a little bit more, helped you see what is possible for you. And if you are curious for yourself to experience the emotional release that you can have, the peace that you can have, and have life look better and feel better than you could have ever imagined, then you can go ahead and book a consultation with me and down in the link in the description box. And we start with the consultation because it's going to help us really get clear on what is the problem that you're experiencing, how is it showing up in your life, the symptoms, the triggers, and everything that you want to be released. And most importantly, see what it is that you want to bring in. Another bonus core tenet of how hypnotherapy works, now that we're talking about it, is that if you say don't do something or to not do something, that's just going to reinforce that behavior even more. For example, I have a lot of people come to me and say, I don't want to be anxious. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to emotionally eat. I don't want to, feel fearful of being seen on social media. I don't want to be afraid of money, whatever it is, right? And all those things, all your brain hears is be afraid. All it hears is be anxious, all it hears is depressed, right? You're not giving it another word that has some type of emotional or visual impact. For example, if you want to be happy, if you want to be at peace, if you want to be able to just turn on your camera and speak and feel confident in it, feel in flow with it, not overthink it, right? But instead actually just be able to let your words go and trust that however it turns out, it's okay. Being able to be that specific of what it is that you want instead, that is going to be key in giving your brain food to go in the direction that you want to go, right? Because again, the brain does what you tell it to do. But if you're telling it to not do something, it doesn't know what to do. Think about if you were trying to teach someone how to walk for the first time and all you were able to say is what you don't do. You're going to be like, well, don't put your arms above your head. Don't put your foot behind you. Don't, start moving your knees up and down and staying in place, right? Like you're gonna have to tell them what to do instead. You're gonna have to tell them to put one foot in front of the other, to lean forward, to shift their weight, right? And then to pick up their other leg. And that's going to be how you direct them into the direction that you want to go. So that is going to be step number 1 that you can take right now to get you closer to where it is that you want to be. When you book that hypnotherapy consultation, we'll go over all of that to see what it is that exactly that you want to create, and I can answer any questions that you have about the process. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining me today in the park for this quick little chat, and I hope to see you soon. Until then, stay well and listen to your soul whispers. Why did I choose to film outside? Oh my god. It's fine. It's for the vibes.